Have you ever used an app and thought, wow, it's like they read my mind? Or navigated a website that just works perfectly? Well, that's not magic, and it's not a lucky guess. It's detective work. Today, we're cracking open the researcher's playbook to see exactly how they gather the data that shapes our world. Let's dive in.
So, let's start with that big question, right? How do companies really know what you want? The secret isn't some crystal ball. It's a set of smart, well-practiced techniques, a playbook that lets them get past the guesswork and really tune into what people actually need. But here's the thing. Before you can even think about running a play, you need a solid game plan. You see, the best research doesn't just jump into asking questions. Nope. It starts with careful, strategic planning to make absolutely sure you're asking the right questions to the right people in the right way. And this is basically your pre-game checklist. First, you've got to set clear goals. What are you trying to find out? Then you identify your participants. Who are you talking to? You also need to define your relationship with them. Be upfront, get their consent. And of course, you have to consider the ethics of it all, like keeping their data safe. Then there's triangulating data, which is just a fancy way of saying you should look at the problem from a few different angles to get the full picture. And finally, and this is a big one, you always run a small pilot study first. It's like a dress rehearsal to iron out all the kinks.
Okay, so once you've done all that prep work, once that foundation is rock solid, now you're ready for action. Your game plan is set, and it's time to choose the perfect play to get the job done.
First up in our playbook is a true classic, the interview. This is your go-to move when you need to go deep, when you want to get past the surface-level stuff and really understand the why behind what people think and do. It's all about having a real, guided conversation. But, not all interviews are created equal. You've got your structured interviews, which are super rigid, almost like someone's reading a survey to you. The data's clean, but you don't get much color. On the other end, you have unstructured interviews, which are more like a free-flowing chat where you can discover all sorts of amazing, unexpected things. Honestly, most researchers live somewhere in the middle, in what's called a semi-structured interview. It gives you the best of both worlds, a little bit of focus and a little bit of freedom.
And a great interview has a natural flow to it, a rhythm. You always start with an introduction to make the person feel comfortable. Then a few easy warm-up questions to get the conversation going. After that, you dive into the main body. This is where the really important stuff is. Then you have a cool-down period to kind of ease out of the heavy topics before a clear and respectful closure. It's a simple path that makes a huge difference.
Now here's a pro tip to make your interviews even better. Bring props. Seriously. Giving someone something to hold and react to, like a rough prototype of an app or a few persona cards, is a total game changer. It takes the conversation out of the abstract and makes it real, which means you get much more specific and useful feedback.
All right, on to our next play. Interviews are fantastic for digging deep with a few people, but what if you need to hear from hundreds or even thousands? Well, that's when you bring out the questionnaire. This is your tool for gathering a lot of data from a lot of people and doing it efficiently.
When you get right down to it, questionnaires are built on two basic types of questions. You have closed questions, think multiple choice, yes or no, or rating scales. These give you nice, neat data that's super easy to analyze. Then you have open questions, which is where you ask people to just write. That's where you get the rich, personal, detailed answers. A really good questionnaire uses a smart mix of both.
But you can't just throw a bunch of questions together and hope for the best. The order you ask questions in can totally change the answers you get. You have to be crystal clear with your wording, keep it as short as you possibly can, and pay attention to the layout. And, you guessed it, you absolutely have to run a pilot study to test it out first. And here's what a good one looks like. See how clean this is? It uses things we all recognize, like radio buttons when you can only pick one answer, and checkboxes when you can pick several. This kind of thoughtful design isn't just about making it look pretty, it's about making it effortless for the user, which means you get much better data. Okay, for our third and final play, we're going to talk about observation. Because here's a little secret of research. What people say they do and what they actually do are often two very different things. Observation is all about closing that gap by actually watching people in action. Seeing is believing, right?
And there are a few different flavors of observation. You can go in the wild, which means watching people in their natural environment, like a coffee shop or their office. Or you can bring them into a lab to watch them perform a specific task in a controlled setting. And then there's indirect observation, which is like being a digital detective. You look at the data trails people leave behind, like website clicks and server logs. Now, if you're thinking, okay, but how do I even start observing? Don't worry, there's a really simple framework for that.
Just focus on these 3 questions. Who is the person, where is the place, and what is the thing they're interacting with? That's it. Focusing on the who, where, and what is a super effective way to structure your notes and make sense of what you're seeing.
This right here is a perfect example of why observation is so powerful. This quote comes from a Think Aloud study, where you ask someone to talk through their thought process while they do something. Just hearing that little bit of hesitation, gosh, there's a lot, tells you so much more than if they just clicked a button. That is absolute gold for a designer trying to make things better. So we've got our 3 core plays: interviews for depth, questionnaires for scale, and observation for behavior. But here's the thing. A true expert doesn't just know the plays. They know exactly which one to call at the perfect moment. Strategy is everything.
So how do you choose? Well, you have to weigh a few things. What's the main focus of your study? Who are the participants? What's the nature of the technique itself? Is it intrusive? And then, of course, you've got the real-world stuff. How much time and money do you actually have to work with?
But this is the real secret. The thing that separates the good researchers from the truly great ones. They don't just pick a play from the book and run it. No way. They adapt it. They get creative and tailor their methods to fit the unique situation. And, most importantly, the people they're trying to understand.
And this just shows that idea so perfectly. I mean, how are you going to ask a little kid to rate something on a scale of 1 to 5? You're not. You use smiley faces. And how do you find out where a cat wanders all day? You can't exactly interview it, right? So you attach a GPS tracker. Adapting your method isn't just clever, it's often the only way to get the data you really need.
So there you have it, a peek inside the researcher's playbook. These aren't just rigid rules, they're flexible tools for understanding the world and the people in it. The only question left is, now that you know the plays, what will you go out and try to understand?